Hello students. Today we'll see the implementation of timer control. How the timer control can be used. Okay. So just I will demonstrate one of the example here to move the label. To move the label control from one side to another side of the screen using the timer. Okay. For certain intervals of time, the label has to move. Fine. Just I will start the application. Visual Basic. Select standard exe project. Click open. Now set the form size according to the application. So next, here I want to demonstrate the usage of timer control. So where the timer control will be, it will be present in the toolbox. So here is the timer control. We need to insert it on the form. Either you can double click on this one or you can just click and drag. So I will double click, it will appear on the center of the form. Fine. So here is the timer control. It has only these many properties. Name, the property which is present for all the controls. Then enabled property. It means that by default the timer will be enabled only, true only. Okay, so when you run the application, the timer will be in the background. It will be enabled itself. You can either disable that by changing it to false. Fine. Then we have index property. Then interval property is one of the very important property of the timer. So what does interval mean? Interval means the time gap. Okay. For example, if you want to design the application to implement stop clock. Stop clock in the sense it has to go on counting the seconds. So when it reaches to 59 and next second the minute has to be increased and the second has to be set to 0. Likewise, so every second or whatever, not only second, it might be 5 seconds or 5 10 seconds, whatever. So here, but this value will be measured in terms of milliseconds, remember that. So if you want to provide the interval gap of 1 second, then this value should be 1000 milliseconds. It is equal to 1 second. Okay, in your application, if you want to print something for every second, or if you want to that is display your name for every second on the form, like then you for every second instance, for every 1 second, if the action has to be performed, then a 1 second time must be set here, but here it will take in terms of milliseconds. So 1 second is equal to 1000 milliseconds. Or for every 5 seconds, for every 5 seconds, the application has to display the even number up to n. Okay, so you are going to read the n value, the maximum value, and for every 5 seconds it has to display the even number. That application you can design here. So for every 5 seconds, if the application has to display means, then the interval value should be 5000 milliseconds, which is equal to 5 seconds. That is about the interval property. Then already we know left is nothing but this position from left edge of the, that is control to left edge of the window. Okay, then we have the top property also. Fine. Then I will just set the timer here somewhere here, and I will take another control called label. Okay, so this label I am taking because for every second this label has to move. Okay, this label has to move from left to right. I will set this one here, somewhere here. So for every second, this label has to move some twips. So some twips in the sense, twips is the measurement quantity. We know that height, width, left, top are going to be measured in VB by default using the twip quantity. So it has to, the label has to move from left to right side for every second. That twip value will mention that. Okay, now I will take two buttons here. When I click on the first button, start button, it has to start moving, and when I click on the second command button, that is the stop command button, it has to stop moving. Okay, now just only these many components are required here, only these many controls are required here. So I will change the properties. So for the form I will change only the caption. let the name be form1 itself. So scrolling label from right to left using timer. Let the caption be this one. Fine. Then for the form, uh, uh, for now I will not change any other properties. Okay. Then for the command button, I will change the caption. I am not changing the names here. Let the name be command1. Or if you want to change those properties also, name and some other properties, then you can do that. So I will just give the caption as start. Then for the other command button, caption as stop. Okay. And here I will give JSS SMI or whatever the string you can give. Now the design part is over. Now we have to write the code. So where to write the code? See, one more thing, we have to change, if it is required, we have to change the properties of the timer control. Okay, so as of now I will not change the properties. Okay, I will just set this interval to 5 seconds only. Okay, let it be. And also the enable property of the timer is also true. Let it be for now. Okay, then later on I will just demonstrate you by changing that. Now see here, when I run the application and when I click on this command button start, this label has to move right side from left. And when I stop this, when I click on stop, wherever the label is present at that point of time, it has to stop there itself. This is the problem statement. We have to design the application to do this action. So now when I click on this command button, it has to move, means we have to enable the timer. Okay, first, because timer, in the sense the timer is going to operate the or perform the actions, that is movement of the label. How? First I will write the code for the timer itself so that you can understand. Now see here, label name is label1 dot, what property I have to select? To move from left to right. Okay, label1 property called left property, just observe here, label1 dot left is equal to, see here, label1 dot left, in the sense this labels property, this labels left property. Left means what it indicates actually? The left property indicates the current position, the current left position of this particular label, means it is going to be indicate that from left position of the left side of the label to left side of the window. Okay, what is the gap from this window left side, left edge, and this left edge of the label? What is the gap here? At present it is 480. You can see here 480. If you just change it to 550, then just observe here in the design part, I will just press enter, just observe, it will just move right side little bit, means it has moved to right side if I increase. So it means that left means the left edge of the control to left edge of the window, the gap, the distance. Fine. So here label1 dot left, what I have to do, for every time interval, whatever the time interval, we can specify that either it might be 5000 milliseconds or 1000 milliseconds. Okay, according to the problem statement. For that time interval, what has to be done? The label has to move. Move means whether the label is moving from left to right side or right to left side. Yes, we have to move from left to right side, right? So to move the label from left to right side, we have to increase what? The left value, left property value of the label. Because as I have demonstrated here, the left property value is at present 550. If I just give this one as 750, just observe here what is the difference. the label will move. Now if I press enter, just observe here, the label's left edge is at present here at the cursor where I am pointing. If I press enter here for 750, see, it has moved. Yes, so like that we have to move the label. So what I will do, label 1 dot left is equal to label 1 dot left plus we have to give some value, some numeric value for moving in terms of pips. It will be measured in terms of pips, right? So we have to give the value here. So what I will do, I will give 100 pips. 100 pips. Fine. Now I will just run the application. See, what is the time interval for the timer? It is 5 seconds, 5000 milliseconds. And by default, enable is set to, okay. So here we have to add the quantity called twip value. Means it is the measurement unit, right? So here we are adding what for the timer one timer event, means this event will be called, or this event will be executed whenever the timer is enabled. Remember that whenever the timer is enabled, then this procedure, the complete procedure will execute repeatedly. It will go on executing whenever if the timer is enabled. Okay, so just observe here, for this timer, what is the enabled property? By default it is true. Okay, so when I run the application now, the timer will be by default enabled, yes, because it is true. Okay, so no need to click on the start button here. We have not yet written the code there for start and stop. Anyway, the timer is enabled because it is true. So just run the application. You can observe the difference here. See, now can you observe, for every 5 seconds it is moving. Just you can observe there. See, it is moving. You can observe. Yes, better I will just decrease the time interval so that you can observe the change very quickly. So I will just change the time interval to only 1 second, 1000. For every 1 seconds, the label will move. For how many twips it will move? For these many twips. From left property to plus 100 twips. It will add 100 twips every time. Okay, every time whenever the timer event is, this procedure is called, then it is going to add 100 twips for the left property of this label. So it will just move from right to, that is from left to right. Run the application. See, for every second the label is moving. Yes, okay. Now see, the label should not move until I press start button. Okay, the label should not move until I press start button. Only if I press start button, this command button, the label must start moving, and when I press stop command button, the label must stop moving. Okay, that we have to implement here. Now for the first command button, command 1, start command button, I will write the code here. Just observe here. Timer 1, how to enable the timer? Why we are going to enable the timer? Because whenever the timer is enabled, the timer event procedure will be completely executed. This whatever the code you are going to write within this procedure will be executed only when the timer is enabled. Please remember that. Fine. So for this one, for the first command button, what I will do, I have to enable the timer. Timer 1 dot enable equal to true, because it is start button. True. And for the other command button, it has to stop, right? The timer has to stop. So we have to disable that. So for the second command button, click event timer 1 dot enabled equal to false. Fine. Next. Now what has to be done? See, we have written timer enable for true for command button 1 and false for command button 2. It means that when I click the first command button, start command button, then the timer has to be enabled, and when the timer is enabled, this timer event will be executed completely. Means here we have written the code to, that is, change the left property with left plus 100 pips. Okay, it means that it will move the label, will this control label control will move from left property to plus 100 pips, like this, from left to right for every second, because time interval we have set it to 1000. Now see, without pressing this start button, again it has started moving. Why? Because by default, in the design, in the designer window, by default the timer is in the properties window. See, in the properties enabled, that is enabled property of the timer is set to true only by default. So what I have to do, I have to set it to false, because when I run the application here, if the timer is enabled, then its code, its respective code, whatever the code we have written to move this label will be executed. As it is the event driven programming language, whenever the event occurs, timer 1 timer event occurs, then its respective code will be executed. So the timer has to be disabled first when the application is started here. If you start running the application, so what I will do, enable should be set to false. Now if I run the application, see, you can observe here, JSSMI, the label is not moving, but we have written the code for first command button, start command button, to move the label. Yes, because timer one dot enabled is equal to true, the timer will be enabled. At that time, the whatever the timer event is there, that will be executed. This complete the timer procedure will be executed. Only one line code we have written, just we are moving from the label from left to left plus 100 for every second, because time interval is set to 1000. Now if I click on start button, that is command 1 click, the timer is enabled and it will execute this code. Just observe here, start. Yes, for every second it is moving. So until where it is going to move, if I just decrease this window size here, just assume that if I decrease this one, now what it has to do, whether it is going to reappear from this side, whether we have the written the code for that. No, see, it will go on, that is increasing this trip value. Got it? See, it will go on increasing the tip value. So how to set the particular window size? So what you can do, you can give the condition here itself in the timer, because it is working for this event only, this event procedure only. So here we have to set the timer. If, that is the condition, if label 1 dot left, if it reaches, if the left property value reaches some pips, for example, if you say suppose 14,000 pips. Okay, if label 1 dot left is equal to 14,000 pips, then what I can do, label 1 dot left, if it reaches to 14,000 pips. Okay, if the label 1 reaches to, left of the label 1 reaches to 14,000 pips, then label 1 dot left should be what, where the label has to appear, the label has to appear at the left side here left, at the left side of the window. So starting, what is the value of this left side, it will start from 0, the twip value from the left side will start from 0, or better I will give just a 50 pips. Now observe here, then end if. Okay, just understand the code here. So this one we have already seen, it is going to move from left to right. If the label one left property reaches 14,000 pips, if this label moves to 14,000 pips, then what has to be done? If this condition is true, then label one dot left equal to 50, means the label should appear at the left property of the label should be appeared at the 50 pips here in this position. Just observe. Start. We have to wait until it reaches to 15,000 pips. So better I will do just change the interval. I will just increase the interval time, that is decrease the interval time here, so that it moves very quickly. So I will set it to 100, means 100 milliseconds. For every 100 milliseconds it is going to execute the code. Start. See, for every 100 seconds it is executing. So whenever it reaches the condition, that is 15,000 pips, then just observe what happens. It is not yet reached the 15,000 pips, the left property of the label. Yes, it has reached and crossed. Somewhere here that 15,000 pips will appear. But why it has not come to here? Because, see, we have written, sorry, 14,000, okay. But because we have written what? Equal to 14. Okay, whenever you say equal to 14, the code will be executed this one every time, because this will be repeated, because the timer is anyway enabled. Okay, whenever the timer is enabled, this complete code will be executed. So what I will do, I will change here greater than or equal to, greater than or equal to 14,000 pips, then label on dot left is equal to 50. Just now observe here. Yes, again it started from 50 pips here. When it reaches to 14,000 somewhere here, okay, the left property of the label, when it reaches to 14,000 somewhere here, again the label will appear where? At the 40. See, at the 40 pips, the left portion at the 40 pips. So again it will start from here. Got it? Yes. Now if I want to move this label until it reaches this edge, how can I identify that this edge is of this edge size or the TWIPS value for this edge? For that you can use the width property of the form. So what I will do, just observe here. So just observe here. We have written the code that when it reaches to 40,000 or when it is greater than or equal to 14,000 pips, left property of this label one, where if it is greater than or equal to 14,000 pips, then it has to start from 50th pip. So instead of this 14,000, what we have to do, we have to write the, that is last edge, that is, sorry, this particular value. So how can I write? See, if I just instead of 14,000, if I mention it to 18,000, whether it covers the complete screen exactly, just run the application. Yes, let's see whether if 18,000 is nothing but the right edge of this, whether it reaches the right edge and immediately it will come start from here. Let us see. No, 18,000 is somewhere here. If you give 20,000, whether it covers or 22,000 or 25,000, so how you can identify that? Instead of identifying that, see, when I click on stop, it has stopped here itself. Instead of identifying that, what you can do, you can just use one of the property of the form. So what is the form property? That is left, that is width property of the form. So if label one dot left is greater than or equal to, that is the form name. What is the form name? Form one dot width. Then label one dot left is equal to 50. So See, if label one left property is greater than or equal to form one's width property. Width is nothing but what? Either it might be your form might be only this much size, or you might scroll or increase the width, or if you set it to maximum also, it will cover the complete width. So based on your form width, it will chuck. So it will move until it reaches to your form width. When it reaches to your form width, or when it reaches to or greater than form width, then it will start from the label will start scrolling from, that is 50th pip. Run the application, you can see, observe here. Start. See, only the form width is this much. This is the form width maximum. See, just observe. Yes, the width has crossed. Whenever it has crossed, immediately it will start from here. 50th pips. Yes, it is working fine. Now, if I just increase the width, just observe here. I will directly increase this width. It has to stop and start from again, beginning. Yes, yes, done. It is working fine. If I just maximize this one, whether it is going to reach the complete width, and again immediately it will start from 50th trip or no, just let's see. Yes, so it is working fine, because here whenever it reaches the, that is, complete width of the last edge of the right edge of the window screen, then it is again starting from the beginning position. We have set the beginning position as 50 pips, so that I will just stop it here, it will stop here. You can set this beginning position, instead of 50 you can set it to 0 also. The whip will measurement will start from 0. So if you give 0 and start here, it will start from, see, initially the label is at this position. Either you can set that value in the form designer window and set the label property as left property of the label as 0, or you can just scroll and set it to here, somewhere here. See, 0. Now run the application. When I click start, see, it has started from 0. It has started scrolling from 0, and when it reaches the edge, again it will start from 0 pip only. Fine. If you increase the width also, it will move up to the width, the form width, because we have given the condition there. If it is greater than or equal to form width, then it has to start, the label one dot left equal to 0. See, yes, it is working fine. So this is one of the that is demo program to move the label, or you can move any other control. You can move like this image also. Okay, you can try by taking the image or picture box. Fine.